Hey guys, welcome back. Two Brothers Off Script. I'm Jerry.
I'm Ryan.
And this week we have got an awesome topic. We had an opportunity to talk about it just for a minute before we worked on our set here a little bit.
Yep. As you can see, we've changed the scenery to somewhat of a, I don't know. We'll just say we're shooting from a bunker somewhere right now, and
Sure.
Preparation for the fallout of this particular conversation.
Tough topic.
It's a tough topic. Some people are into it, some people aren't, and the people you find more readily willing to conquer this type of attitude are some of those people that you are least likely to want to hang out with, and those people are confrontational. They like to get in your face and tell you how it is, or how they think you should be, or even if they are coming at you from a position of power, they're oftentimes going to do it in a way that makes you feel like they're somehow belittling,
right,
or they're saying, they're in the same sense of belittling, treating you less than your station. And if you work with people who do this to you, or you're kind of, you're in family situations, or you're forced to confront people about certain things sometimes. Maybe it's not really something you really like to do, but we're all faced with it, and that is confrontation.
So I typically think about this topic when Ryan mentioned confrontation as a topic. I really think about this in terms of bullies. My children are just starting. My oldest girls are starting second grade. I have a daughter in first grade, and I have a daughter starting kindergarten. So they're just right all in this same range. And last year, Charlotte had a boy slap her in the face at school. Yeah. And she was crying, and she was upset, and she didn't understand what was going on. And we're getting a call from the principal that our daughter's been slapped in the head. And my wife actually ended up at a birthday party and was talking about this situation, and the two women she was talking to were saying, "Oh, this is so terrible." And then Charlotte said, "Oh, the boy that hit me in the face is right there," and it was the son of one of the two ladies that Jessica had been talking to. And so you're thinking about how you would react to this situation of bullying, based on how you were taught to deal with this as a child, how you felt as a child. I think everybody experiences a bully personality at some point in their life, and almost always the advice is confront it, or
suck it up,
tell a teacher, or run away. Run away / tell a teacher, right? Because running away and telling the teacher have almost the same outcome.
Yeah,
really,
the teacher doesn't really do anything. They tell the parent or something like that. But in that situation, when you're dealing with a kindergartner or some younger children who are just starting to deal with that because of the social, let's say the social umbrella is not there anymore. If mom or dad is around, when the kids are around, then the kids tend to behave a little differently. But when they get on their own in the playground, and you've got one person watching 50 kids out there in the yard just seeing if anybody starts to bleed, then you're going to see these little situations pop up where somebody takes something. And I mean, that's what my kid's doing right now. His little friend in the neighborhood here, and it's a little girl, and he bullies her right now. Like, I don't think he knows what he's doing. We're really trying to, say, no, don't do that, and let her have her thing, and stop. It's her turn, and let her share, please, and stuff like that. But he'll literally run her over. He doesn't even slow down. He just runs over, and he has such a good time doing it that it's like, well, you want to beat your kid, but you're like, hey, they're having fun.
It's really complicated to try to figure out how you're going to teach this issue as a parent. And then also, you have to look back at what you were taught. I feel like I was a bully. Like I
do too. You beat us up.
I was bad. Right. I wasn't a bully at school. So at school, I was relatively small.
Right.
And I got beat up. And I got beat up by kids who were smaller than me, because I had been told if I fought at school that I was going to get in a lot of trouble.
Right.
And I did on a couple of occasions. I remember the kid's name was Lyle, and there was an Eric. I got beat up, and this is at a point in time post Columbine, where any violence in school was not going to be tolerated. And
Right.
so I got suspended because I had gotten beat up. Like, the kid beat me up and I got kicked out of school under the presumption that I must have somehow done something to deserve getting beat up.
Right? Well,
So I got kicked out. And this happened like more than once. I got suspended and I was getting beat up. And then at home, the only two people that were smaller than me that I felt like I had power over were Ryan and our other brother Daniel.
now the tables have turned.
Yeah, he's bigger than me now. And he's also the managing partner of this particular YouTube channel. So I work for him. But in this situation, like, I don't think it was right now as I look back on it. I certainly wouldn't want my children to act like I acted.
But in the back of your mind, you still think about the possibilities of their confrontations later on, and you say, I'd rather my kid be strong and dominant than weak and bullied. And you can say there's a smarter alternative, but you want your kid to be able to whip out some karate, and shut that kid down. A little boy comes up to her, just chop him down. And
Yes.
then it's like, oh, nobody mess with her anymore.
But
you don't want the fallout. So
Right,
you're
you
gonna
don't
fall
want
back
the
to
call from
yeah.
the principal that your kid is a jerk and is out there judo chopping other kids.
Yeah, but you want the old guy on the side, it's like, I can train her.
We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. So two of our previous episodes, please watch them, that tie into this were power corrupts,
Right.
and whether or not you're going to be filtered or unfiltered. Because if you are always confrontational and you have the power, you turn into a jerk.
True.
Right? You're now the bully. And at the same time, if you're confronting a bully, and the bully might be your boss, if you're confronting somebody who's a bully and it's at a family picnic,
Right.
there is a strong chance that this is going to cause all kinds of other issues. So confrontation doesn't always mean violence,
Right.
but these issues are all connected, and it's a big deal of figuring out when you're going to say enough is enough and address the issue.
Can you deal with the social pressure at work to just toe your line, or do you occasionally have to stick up for yourself or somebody else and make a stand? Now, I was involved today in a confrontation. It's kind of weird how it happened, but I stepped up to it, and I was actually the confronting party in this case.
Okay.
I was the person being kind of the bully because of the situation. So we were supposed to get some stuff on Friday. It didn't show up. I had seen the truck that was coming, but it didn't come in. And then on today, we actually had a different truck deliver the product at work. And I found on the product a note that was supposed to go with the product, I'm assuming to dispatch or whoever it is that sends these people out. It says the business was closed and receiving hours are between 8 and noon. And I said to myself, well, we've never actually had a cutoff. We receive basically from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. And that's not necessarily our choice. We would prefer 8 and noon is a great time that we can get it all done and have time for other things. But anyways, the subject was that it said the business was closed. And I had seen the truck outside of my open bay door with the front door unlocked and everything like that. And I'm standing there. And I'm next to the owner of the company, and the owner says, I think I saw the truck. Did you see the truck? And I said, yeah, and I think they're supposed to deliver this product, but now they're gone. They just disappeared. So I found this piece of paper on Monday, and I brought it up to my boss. And he said, well, is there a number to call? Somebody you can call on this? And I said, yeah, I'll call him, and I'll see what I can do. And I called him. I said, hey, I need to lodge a complaint. I'm not a big complainer. I don't send food back unless it's got something really wrong with it. I don't I might have an inner dialogue or commentary about social, situations where people stink or where they're too loud in a movie or whatever. But for the most part, I'll avoid that confrontation. Because
Sure.
it literally is not worth it. You're not going to solve anybody's problem. You're not going to, if I turn around to the person behind me and say, hey, stop talking. This is a movie. I'm here too. I don't need to hear your conversation when we're trying to enjoy the movie. Just shut up. For everybody's sake. No one's going to do what they do in the movie where they stand up and, oh yeah, social justice, shut them down. That is a weak
That's not gonna
confrontation. It doesn't solve a thing. So if there's another seat, just, move. I do what I did, and my neck was actually kind of hurting, but I used it as an excuse. I said, you know what, honey, my neck's kind of hurting when I look to the left here. Let's move to the other side of the theater so I can look to the right. And guess what? I could still hear him. So it didn't solve a dang thing. But I was a little bit further away so we could talk about him more. Anyways, it's confrontations that you are forced into, and then ones that you can choose to avoid in order to be not better. You are the only person that gets that inner victory. You just, like, I got it. But in this situation today, sorry, I'm almost done. The situation today was, go confront this company for me. And so I normally would just be on the phone and I'd say, hey, sorry to bother you, there's some issue over here. We were trying to find this freight and the freight's not here and it was supposed to show up on Friday. And then the other line says, oh, so sorry to hear that. I guess we'll track it out. Yeah, it looks like it's coming in today. Great, fine. But we had somebody come to the warehouse to try and pick it up when it wasn't there. They came hours early before it actually arrived. When it finally arrived, they were itching to get it and get gone because they had to deliver it to somebody else. They were talking to the owner's talking to me, there's all this different stuff going on. So it was this huge ball of wax or yarn or whatever, I don't know what analogy I'm trying to draw out of that, but it says, you have to fix this, at least make an attempt to fix it, or you look like, just a stand-byer and not really doing anything, and that doesn't solve the problem. So I stepped up to the plate. I was confrontational with this company. I got a result. And then at the end of this whole thing, I think that I look better in my boss's eyes because the verbiage that I was using was, our customer suffered because of your inability to deliver what you said you were going to deliver. And on the other end of the phone, I'm getting the same thing I thought I would have gotten if I had just gone up and said, hey, I'm sorry, didn't deliver your stuff. They said, we apologize about this, and we're definitely going to work to resolve this in the future, and that's not how it's supposed to work. So throughout that whole thing, I didn't really solve or change anything. I just was more of a bully on the phone than I had to be.
I think those things, though, are, in some ways, in the business world, I think those things are very, very, I think they're necessary sometimes to talk to people about issues that you have to talk to people. So I had an example where I had to talk to an employee the other day about his performance, and he's not somebody who normally works for me. He doesn't even know me as a manager.
So you don't have.
I'm essentially delivering this corrective notification for another manager that I work with, and I walk up to him and I start having a conversation about, this is where you are, and this is where we need you to be. And this is where you've been in the past. And so you've been at this level, and you've week over week over week, this is what's happened to your performance, and this is where we need you to be. This is a challenge that every business has productivity expectations, and this is our expectation. And from him, I got every reason why he didn't think that I was valid to give him the correction. He didn't think that he had really done what the system said he had done. He didn't believe the numbers. Then it was a conspiracy that people were out to get him. Then it was because of my skin color. Then it was because of his skin color. Then it was because of the skin color of somebody who had walked by earlier and talked to him. And it was this myriad of issues about why his number was not where it was supposed to be. And the only thing it wasn't about was his lack of effort.
True.
And so in that conversation, we talked, and I heard him out, and I didn't react negatively to some of these other things.
You can't.
And we had this conversation out, and at the end of it, I said, sir, this is really where we need to be focused on. And, I want you to understand going forward, this is the expectation. I don't think that he had a life-changing experience because we had that conversation. I don't think that he really believed at the end of it that it was his, or internalized that it was his issue. But next week, if that comes up again, I have to be, as a leader, I have to be 100% willing to go up and talk to that person and say, this is the expectation. This is the conversation we had last week. This is where you are today. And I have to be willing to do that because that's part of my job.
Right.
And yet I'm not comfortable in that conversation.
I think, you know what, I had an experience like this, okay? I was basically a temp at a mail sorting facility. And so our performance was very heavily monitored. We had to do a certain amount of numbers and sort a certain amount of mail in any given hour. And it was 8 hours, and it was hard work, and it was kind of a pain and very tedious. But I think that in all these situations, like right now, I'm always kind of by myself, or I'm left to lead when my boss is gone and stuff like that. And I don't consider that necessarily a benefit or a promotion or anything like that. I consider it more responsibility for the same amount of pay, and that's kind of annoying. But I do tend to get thrust into that situation, and I never back down from it. If somebody says, hey, I need you to watch the shift while I'm gone, I don't say no. It's never been in my... I just don't do it. I'm like, yes, you know what, I'm here to get paid, so I'm going to work no matter what. Right. But you telling me that I need to train the new guy, or you telling me that I should lead my team, even though they're not technically my team, or I'm not technically a lead and stuff like that. So the pay would be a life changer for me, I think, or an attitude changer.
Yeah,
but
those are challenges.
That situation was when I got promoted to lead, the other guy who was lead before, he was like, I'm going to a better job, so somebody else is going to have to take this position. Who's it going to be? And I'm like, me, I guess, or I don't think that I even really volunteered. I was actually asked about it. And so I said, yes, I'll take on this responsibility. And came with a pay increase, so I definitely wanted that. But it was, you are now, your objective now is to be a leader by example, which I believe strongly in. And then you also need to, guide these other people, when nobody else is watching them. You need to be the guys going over there and telling them, don't talk so much and stuff like that. First day, guy's gone. I've been there maybe 6 months. I pretty much all the people that I work with are the same people I work with the entire 6 months I was there.
Sure.
And on my first day as lead, I walk up to this older woman and I said, hey, Rosa, can you not be talking right now? And you and the other ladies here need to do more. I see you standing here talking and not sorting your magazines. And I was basically politely told in so many words that I actually don't understand because I don't speak Spanish, to go away and not tell them what to do, because I've only been there for 6 months and they've been there for X amount of months and years, and they have their right to do whatever it is that they're doing. And I said, no, this is my job. I'm the lead. You were supposed to do as I say, and this is what I'm telling you. I'm not picking on you because of who you are or your skin color or anything like that. I'm saying you're standing here talking, and I'm having to be coming over here to talk to you instead of me being over there doing my job. So you're making me look bad, and that in itself is, not going to work for me. So we need to step it up. And they, again, kind of told me in some language I don't understand, but they said, go away, and I said, fine. I left, and I brought it up to lead man, the guy above me, I was still a temp lead, and he was the main operator guy, and he said, okay, well, I'll take that, and I went back to my position and started working again. And then the next day I got brought up to him, and he said, I talked to the ladies about it, and they said that you were being a bully and you were being mean and you were telling them what they're supposed to do, and you got to understand they've been here a long time, they know what they're doing. I was like, you just gave me basically power, and then you told me that I can't use it, or you gave me this position where I'm supposed to produce more than I already was, but I can't use it. And how does you just want me to stand here and work, but when somebody fails, it's going to come back to me, because that's how it was supposed to work, is the leader is an example of the workers.
So I've been in that situation, and the way I advise when I train supervisors and managers now, the way I advise is that we are always going to be in a position where, because it's work, it's for most people a thing that we do because we feel like we have to, not necessarily.
We want money.
Well, sure,
we're not there for free.
But that we do work because we feel like we have to be there. And almost always now, the way I advise people is that you've got to slowly try to create a culture of defining what success is rather than defining what failure is, and moving towards how do you win. So the way I phrase it for my team is the way that we're going to win and be the best is we're going to hit this number. And if we're not hitting that number, then we'll talk about why we're not hitting that number. And that's such a hard thing because at least in American management culture, it tends to be, you didn't hit the number, you're bad. Not, you didn't hit the number, let's talk about what we can do to try to change the environment or change your situation or change your motivation. We talk about, you're not hitting the number, so you're bad. You're a bad worker. You're a bad person. You're a lazy person. And that's the way that a lot of managers come at people because they have power. And I'm not saying that's how you were coming across. I'm saying in general, that's how people come across. And so people who are workers we're all workers. I mean, I have a boss, you have a boss. We're all responding to the needs of our individual boss, but as individuals, we get sensitive.
Yeah.
Right? It's a sore spot. It's where we get defensive. That somebody's going to come up and approach us in a negative way. We're going to immediately react in a negative way. And I've certainly had criticism, even as a manager. I've been coached. I've been told things that were hard for me to hear and hard for me to agree with. And I find myself getting defensive. And I think the mark of leadership is not just managing the situation, but the mark of leadership is that, yes, you're going to have to confront people, but that you're going to try to, when somebody confronts you, you're going to try to hear them out. And I think I know we've kind of taken a roundabout topic on this, but I think that that's the biggest lesson in terms of confrontation, in terms of when do you approach people and how do you approach people. Because people could be offensive, people could be a bully, people can be your boss and not treating you with respect. There's all these different aspects of this confrontation. When do you need to confront people? And yet at the same time, when we get confronted, how do we handle it? Do we listen and say, yeah,
Do you say yes to anything though? I mean, if someone really gets on you about something, is it your responsibility as a worker? Let's say you're the step below the person who's giving you this task, or they're confronting you about something they think is a failure and you don't agree. Do you just say yes anyways? Do you always acquiesce to whatever it is that they want in order to get out of the situation, or to just say, I understand what you're trying to say, I will definitely try and do better, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just go ahead and get back to work now. Thank you very much for your input.
Yeah, I tend to go that way. I almost always I will tend to say, because again, I went in the military and I did a lot of push-ups to be able to say yes sir, yes ma'am, and it was painful. It was painful for me to go through that experience. It was physically demanding. It was emotionally demanding. You were tired all the time, and I really internalized this idea that I've got to be able to take an order. At the same time, and I told this story to one of my new bosses this week. I had a friend several years ago that I worked with closely, and he was at work and he started to cough, and he started to cough up blood. And while he was coughing up blood, he went to the nurse, and the nurse said, I can't send you home. This is a non-work related condition. And he got sent back to the floor. And his supervisor said, hey man, I'm sorry you're not feeling good, but I can't give you permission to go home because I don't have permission. If you go home, you have to get points and attendance points. You're going to get in trouble. And so he said, but I'll take it easy on you. You can lay in the back. So my friend went and laid in the back on this piece of cardboard. I can still remember what he looked like. He was laying on this table on a piece of cardboard, and he's coughing up blood. And the rest of us are standing around
going, what the heck?
Saying, this is messed up. This is wrong.
Yeah.
And what's wrong with us? Why can't we send this guy home? He needs to go home. He needs to go to the doctor. But none of us called 911. And my friend went home, and he went into a fever, and he got delirious, and he was dead, I think the same day. He died. This was coming off of a graveyard shift. Wow. And that has stuck with me since then. that blind adherence to policy and procedure, blindly saying yes sir when you know it's ethically or morally wrong, is how I don't want to overblow this. It's how the Nazis were able to kill so many people.
Yeah.
Because people said, yes, sir.
No matter what.
And they did things that were unethical, that were immoral. They chose to see people as less than human. And they didn't stand up and confront it. And so we have in our society people who say, well, I would do this or I would do that. If this situation comes along, I'll do the right thing. But yet when they're confronted with these small tests, right? Or in this case, a big test, like a guy standing there coughing up blood at work, he didn't make the right choice. Now, was it horrible? Yes. Did we all grieve? Yeah, we all on that team, we all felt a horrible sadness for having gone through this and also for having not
done anything
to
it's
change
like standing at a car wreck and just...
It's like taking a selfie at a car wreck.
Yep.
It's wrong. And yet, these are the times where we need to confront in a way that challenges people to do the right thing. Because ethics and morality are the only defense that you have against blind policy and blind acceptance of orders. And so we have this responsibility, and this is not a message to revolt, but we have a responsibility as individuals to look at the situations that we face. And when you see somebody beating on their kids, or when you see somebody beating on their significant other, when you see violence, when you see things going on in your society that are wrong, it doesn't mean you jump in there and grab onto somebody, but it does mean, should you call the police? Yeah. Should you call 911? Yeah. Should you call you should take action to do the moral and ethical thing because it's the right thing to do. And the policy be damned. And that experience for me has shaped the way that I now view confrontation in my workplace. And I try to actively teach and promote people and explain to people this story because of my own failure. I failed too. Right. I stood there and I didn't call 911 and my friend died. And so I'm not willing to accept a bully in my kid's school. I'm not willing to accept a decision not to treat people with respect where I work. I'm not willing to stand by and ignore a car wreck and take a selfie or be there and be present and not be actively engaged in trying to make the world a better place. Oh, we got stuff falling over.
Yeah, it's
so that's
really coming down out there now. we got the.
That's my final word on it. That was kind of a long monologue. Where do you want to kind of close out? We got a couple minutes left.
For me, everything in my life comes down to the same goals that it always has. I want to be comfortable. I want to be able to go to my job, whatever the job is, and I want to be able to come home at the end of the day and feel like I at least did something, or that my day went rather smoothly. And so I avoid confrontation at almost all costs because it's not worth it overall to yell at the people behind me or to tell my boss no most of the time or to be angry on a phone call or something like that. It really comes down to me about that comfort level, and I can change how aggressive I am, but at a certain point, like if I ever got into a real position of power where I was able to control people through fear, manipulation, or something like that, it would be incremental, and I would eventually think that I would become a completely different person if I had that in me to be confrontational as kind of a default. Like, okay, somebody is resisting me, somebody is not they're not adhering to the rules that are set out for the company, so I'm going to go to that person, I'm going to say, you know what, you need to do it the way the company says, or you need to do it the way I say because somebody else told me that I'm the lead man right now. None of those things, it still doesn't feel comfortable, but as you progress in that, you get more and more comfortable with it, and when that happens, you might, become a different person. But if you're approaching it as a as a morality standpoint, when you're doing something right, and that's something that's worth standing up for.
Yeah,
Be confrontational to save the world, even if you're only saving a small part of it. And so I think that's pretty much it for us, guys. My iced coffee, decaf.
Yeah, I had the iced coffee also. Thank you.
Regular. But that's pretty much it for us this week, I think. So as we all go back to our jobs, hopefully we can share this knowledge with some other people, and maybe share it with friends on Facebook, or like us, or
Subscribe.
This is we're not here to bully people. We're here to just share our thoughts on little things that happen to us throughout the day, and this is it's good. So
Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.
bye.